Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. I am Nick, joined here by KP. And for this video, we are going into Elimination Chamber 2025 in Toronto, Canada, set to take place this Saturday, March 1st. So without further ado, let's get right into it. We kick off with the women's elimination chamber match. Roxanne Perez, Bailey, Naomi, Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan, and Bianca. We went into depth, and if you're curious, the video is out there on who we think will win the elimination chamber matches last week. We went into depth both the women's and the men's and we went into depth on each individual, discussed why we think they would win and who they would go up against. So if you want a more in-depth response, that would be your place to go. But for the sake of this video, we're just going to go in who we think is going to win and why. Things have changed since we've made that video. Last week we had Naomi and Bianca holding titles, the tag team titles, and this week it is not. This week, as of Monday, Liv Morgan and Raquel of the Judgment Day are now the women's tag titles. So does that change our opinion on who we think will win? I certainly think there is logic there. So KP, who do you think will win the Elimination Chamber and why?
Well, the short answer is I have no idea. The long answer is my original prediction was Liv Morgan. This was before Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez won the women's tag team titles this past Monday night on Raw. I feel like it made sense there, and I feel like that was the only logical decision. But let me break down quickly why I came to that decision. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just basically why I went down that path. In my opinion, Bianca and Naomi were compromised by this potential Jade Cargill story, and I feel like no matter who's involved there, the other one's also going to be involved as well. So I've counted them out immediately. Bailey and Roxanne Perez, I feel like they've got their own thing going on recently that's, allowed Roxanne to make her way up to the main roster and to, compete, in these sort of opportunities. And I feel like they've got something going into WrestleMania, which made me think that Alexa Bliss and Liv Morgan were only two real people here with a chance to actually win this chamber match. Alexa has only just come back from, everything that she's gone through in the last couple of years, having a child, and then stuff afterwards that I won't go into too much detail on right now. But she's only just come back, and she's got potential. We've seen the little snippets, hints regarding the Wyatt family. So that left Liv Morgan as the option there. I know we've had Rhea and Liv countless times in the last year, but I just felt that was the only person who was available to take this position. Now that she's one half the women's tag team champions, I genuinely don't know if that changes anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say that I'm still going to go with Liv Morgan, even though she's become one half the women's tag team champions. And I'm just gonna stick with Liv. I don't have another reason to go with anybody else. As far as I'm concerned, nobody else has changed here. They're all still involved with potentially something different. And I'm just gonna stick with Liv Morgan. If you've got anything else, I'm more than happy to hear you out, because right now my mind is just not really capable of fathoming an option where anybody else wins this match except for Liv Morgan, even though she's just got her newly won gold on her shoulder. What about you, Nick, though? Have you got anything bigger to offer on this one? Anything more decisive?
So you can tell we've made a video on this because it's almost like you were reading off my notes for that one. And even during that last video we made, I mentioned the fact that Liv makes a lot of sense. Granted, that was before having the tag team title on her shoulder, but it made sense. And going through all these again, now that the things have changed, it still does make a lot of sense. The only downside is, do we really want to go the Liv Rhea route again? So I think that's what it boils down to. I don't think WWE is going to do that. I wasn't sure they would do it anyways, but that was before she had a title. So I don't think they're going that route. I don't think Roxy's winning simply because it would be too much too quick. And after the Rumble she had, I think that's too much. And I think Bailey and her probably cancel each other out. And similarly, I think Alexa just needs more character work before they put her in a Mania match with Rhea, and so that leaves Naomi and Bianca. And if you believe in the dirt sheets and all that, apparently Naomi is the one that's going to hold responsibility for this. Her and Jade being a feud going forward. Um, I don't see that happening either, but I also don't see Naomi winning the Chamber and going after Rhea for the Mania match. So, but with that, by process of elimination, I think they're going Bianca and Rhea. And probably Jade ends up getting involved in that picture somehow. I don't know if it would be, end up being a triple threat, or Jade ends up costing Bianca, and that's what and that whole storyline causes Bianca to go heel. But it just makes sense for Bianca and Rhea being the Mania match. That just feels like it makes the most sense and is the most deserving to be there out of all the options. So, is that a better reasoning than what you have? I don't know. I guess we can let everyone else decide. I just feel like that makes the most sense. And Jade coming back obviously is the elephant in the room, but it's the one that makes most sense. But as you said, I think you could make a case for most of these, and we wouldn't be mad at it. It'll be interesting, I guess, is our main takeaway. It'll be interesting to see come Sunday who we're talking about having won it, and I think we'll be like, oh yeah, it makes sense now that we see it that way. So yeah, certainly lots of interest in this one. But with that, we'll move on to the next match here, which will be Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. For me personally, I'll never get tired of this match and/or this rivalry. Um, I personally don't think it's unreasonable for either of these men to win. I don't think either of us will bat an eye and say, if Sammy wins or if Kevin wins, like, okay, sure. Where do we go from here? And I think that's the big question. I think um, whoever wins this, I think is obviously that's how we'll see what we're going to build up to Mania. So, and I think the question's being asked, well, if whoever wins this, will this continue to Mania? Obviously, that's a long ways away. But in my opinion, I think if any feud can, hold the weight, I think it is this one. So to me, I think it boils down to one thing. It boils down to if the elephant in the room, Randy Orton, is still somewhere. Is he going to get involved in this? We don't know. But I think it's certainly a possibility. If Randy Orton gets involved, I think that Sammy wins, and then they continue down the path of KO and Randy. If Randy doesn't get involved, I think KO wins, and I think they're continuing this feud to Mania, and we see the final payoff of that at Mania. So if you put me on the spot here, um, I think Kevin wins here. I think both of these guys have been extremely hot, but I think Kevin has the slight edge. And so for that reason, I think Kevin will win here, and this feud continues to Mania. KP, do you agree with this logic, or do you have something else in mind?
So, in terms of reasoning to go with either superstar, you've absolutely nailed down, why I would possibly go for either or. I think if it is Kevin Owens, then absolutely 100%, yeah, Randy's nowhere to be seen. If it's Sammy, Randy shows up, costs Kevin Owens. I am going to go differently to you. I think that Sami Zayn will win, and I purely am basing that on Randy Orton returning. It's been a long time since he was last seen, and he will return to take out Kevin Owens. It will set up a match between himself and KO for WrestleMania. As to what that leaves for Sami Zayn, he's had a little bit of things here with Karrion Kross recently. Whether that could be a matchup between him and Kross at WrestleMania, possibly so. It could be. I think that does make some sense. So then you've also got, that lingering over his shoulder. I feel like that probably isn't going to go unnoticed. So yeah, Randy Orton returns, takes out KO, costs him the match, and then Sami Zayn wins ultimately because of that. And then they both go their separate ways into feuds at WrestleMania. That's what I think is going to happen and take place here. Yeah, I can't really offer too much more because you nailed down my exact reasoning. So yeah, that's basically what I think.
All right. Well, we will move on to the next match then. And that will be the tag match recently set up with Candice LeRae, Nia Jax going up against Tiffany Stratton and Canada's own Trish Stratus. Um, yeah, I personally don't feel like this match belongs on this card. I'm just going to be blunt with it. Clearly, the one reason why we have this match here is for Trish, and it because of the location of the Elimination Chamber. That being said, I feel like there are a few different options they could go here, and I won't go into mine because I took the last one. KP, how do you see this match playing out? And more importantly, how do you see Tiff being portrayed here? And as another elephant in the room, will she be involved as well?
Well, I think regarding this one, I think it could go literally both ways. I don't think it really makes any sense for Tiff to take a loss going into WrestleMania season. Obviously, her upcoming match against Charlotte Flair, looming on the horizon. I think, yeah, ultimately speaking, Tiff losing just doesn't really make an awful lot of sense to me. So I will go with a lot with the side that Trish Stratus and Tiffany get the win. Might be a glorious moment for the Toronto crowd. Basking in a returning Trish Stratus getting a victory here in Canada. I think that also adds to that as well. Nia and Candice, yeah, they've been a good enough team to be fair. They've had like a bit of an alliance going on, and they've worked well together for sure. But yeah, I think it just makes a lot more sense for Trish and Tiff to get the win here. We've seen Tiff, on her back a lot in the ring with Charlotte Flair looming over her from above. I I can see Charlotte appearing here. I can, but I don't really get what the purpose would be during the match. So I think maybe just a moment between Trish and Tiff afterwards, celebrating in the ring. Maybe Charlotte Flair comes down and says, "You know what? Yep, congrats on the win. Fair play, but remember, you got me a WrestleMania." Just something like that. I don't think she's actually going to say those words, but just maybe just like a show of like fake respect, so much if you want to say, from the Royal Rumble winner. But yeah, I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with Tiff and Trish getting the victory here, and Candice and Nia, yeah, yeah, maybe taking the loss this time.
Yes, I agree, and I think you're kind of going in the exact direction that I wanted to, and that was yes, I think Candice and Nia should lose here. Um, And more importantly, I think Trish shouldn't be that heavily involved. I think Tiffany should. I think this match should serve as a purpose to showcase Tiffany because I feel like you've really hurt her character ever since Charlotte has announced that she's challenging her. For whatever reason, WWE doesn't want to have two. I want to say, lack of a better word, two bitchy characters because that's kind of what they are at the end of the day, um, for vastly different reasons. But um, they both think highly of themselves, and for whatever reason, they don't want those styles clashing. And so they've really kind of taken the foot off the gas when it comes to Tiffany. And personally, as if it's not obvious, I'm not a huge fan of that. I feel like that was part of what made her rise to where she is now, what it is. Obviously, her in ring abilities are extremely highly praised as well. But I think her character work is entertaining, and I feel like they've really taken put that on the back burner for this feud. So personally, I want Trish and Tiffany to win, but I want Tiffany to get the win. I want her to get the pin. I want her to do a lot of the heavy lifting here to kind of bring her back up because I feel like, yeah, as you mentioned, Charlotte has been on top for the entire portion of this feud so far. And so I think Tiffany really needs to get a boost here. So I think what better way to do that than have Tiffany win and more specifically get it done over Nia. You want to further increase that stock. If Charlotte is to get involved, still have them come out on top and Tiffany, as you mentioned, not being on her back for once. I think that's the direction they need to go, and I think that's what will make this match deserving to be an elimination chamber because any other way I just don't feel like it should be here. So with that, we will move on to The Rock and Cody Rhodes. We've talked about this on our Raw recap. Um, you know, this was a interesting segment to say the least. And even more interesting that they pushed it to Elimination Chamber for Cody to decide what he wants to do. We saw the Seth Rollins promo with Cody, advising him not to go down paths that he's taken before. So, what I assume we're both on the same page here, but you, I feel like there are some questions to be asked. So I'm curious to see what you think will come of this segment here.
Honestly, I'm not entirely sure of exactly what's going to go down here. I don't know how long they're going to make this segment be. My initial reaction is that based on everything that I've seen from Cody Rhodes in the last year and a half, 2 years, whatever, he will not accept this offer. There's no way. Selling his soul to The Rock doesn't sound like something Cody would ever even consider to do. Obviously, he's been playing the fact that he's been thinking about it and whatnot. But yeah, it just doesn't make sense for his character right now to do so unless they literally are just gonna, rip up the paper and just, start fresh here, and generate a new story. You take the word story with Cody Rhodes, and it's basically been his, whole demeanor so far. But this is a chance to completely go against all of that, and to now go into a completely different situation with The Rock, and it's basically a corporate champion offer. People in the past, they've benefited from those, but they've also been struck by them. And I think Cody will know that. As to how The Rock basically just, acts during this whole segment, I don't really know. Maybe Cody says that he doesn't accept it. The Rock, isn't happy about that. And I don't think they're going to have, a brawl or anything, because then that would necessarily mean that they're going to have something going on to WrestleMania. But the winner of the Elimination Chamber match goes up against Cody, and I feel like Rock Cody is a singles match. They don't need to have anybody else involved in that. So for me, that seems like a direction they won't go in. So maybe thinking about it, he does accept it, and then we get somebody who's a face wins the Elimination Chamber. I mean, it's possible. We could be going down that route, but yeah, I just don't think it's really going to happen. So I think my initial reaction is Cody doesn't accept it, but I couldn't tell you what happens after that. I really don't know, because it doesn't make sense having a feud going into WrestleMania, because this is a singles match type feud. That's what I'm going to say. I don't know if you've got maybe more detail to go in about that one, but that's just my initial reactions and my thoughts about what I may be expecting and think is going to take place.
I'm just going to pick up exactly where you left off, and that is, if Cody doesn't accept this, then what was the point? So if Cody doesn't accept, to be the corporate champion, was that segment on Monday just to uh, for Rock to get some screen time, to make something interesting, to get people talking, and to announce that Mania would be at that location in 2026? If so, shame on them, because I guess it worked. I guess you could argue it worked, because I've thought way too much on it. But also, uh, the intrigue is there, and I think a lot of people have been interested in seeing Cody, be a little more edgy, maybe even turn heel. Um, so this is the opportunity, and so maybe they know that, and then this is them kind of feeding on that. So I don't know. I like you say, I don't. I'm certain that won't happen, but you have my interest and you have my intrigue, and I kind of want to see him go down that path. I think that does completely open the door for what is, um, you know, a wide open elimination chamber match for the men's side too. So I think based on this, I think it'll be interesting to see where this plays out when this comes on. If it's before or after the men's, I would assume before. Um, but yeah, I think it's interesting, and it has us talking. So at the end of the day, I guess that is accomplishing what it needs to. Um, I think Cody's going to give a non-answer. That's my final prediction. I think he's going to give a non-answer, and they're going to string this out some more, because it just feels like, to say no, you opened that book and you closed it up as soon as you could. So it doesn't feel like it serves its purpose as much as it could. So that's my final answer for that one. Yeah, lots of interesting talking points for our reactions video come Sunday. So with that, we'll move on into what we believe will be the main event, and that is the men's elimination chamber match. Damian Priest, Logan Paul, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, John Cena, and CM Punk. We, as I mentioned earlier, for the women, we went into great detail on each one of these participants, discussed why we think they should win or not, and who they should go after. Um, as you're unlike the women, I don't think much has changed, with one exception, and I'll note that here in a minute. But first, KP, give us your thoughts on, has your opinion changed on who you think will win come Saturday?
No, my opinion has not changed. I'm still very much on the same sort of mindset here. Just to quickly, dumb it down, basically as to why I've come to the decision I've made. I think Seth Rollins won't win because he's got a lot going on with a potential Roman Reigns return, so I can count him out immediately. Damian Priest, I mean, without just hysterically laughing right now, I'm just going to say no, I don't think he's going to win. Logan Paul, I think the same pretty much reason. I don't see him winning either, because of the three names still to come, I think have way more of a higher chance of winning. Drew McIntyre, I would absolutely love to see win this Elimination Chamber and go on the challenge Cody Rhodes. But I feel like it's either going to be John Cena or CM Punk. That was always a gut feeling with Drew McIntyre. I don't think he's going to quite win here, although I would love to see him do so. CM Punk and John Cena are the two that I sort of have ummed and ahed between recently. I think Cena has done absolutely nothing to build this chamber, so I don't really think that he should be winning it. I feel like it should be somebody who's actually here and competing. And to actually say that I think CM Punk should win over John Cena is quite the statement. But I do believe that Punk will win. They've sort of teased us with Cody and Punk previously going into this, and yeah, I'm still on that side of the fence, thinking that CM Punk will win. We had Logan Paul and Punk have a segment on Raw this past Monday. Maybe perhaps that sort of like put a deep doubt in the back of my mind as to maybe whether somebody else will win instead of CM Punk, and maybe actually WrestleMania plans for Punk is Logan Paul. But no, I think that's a red herring. I think it's basically just there to have a quick little interaction between the two men. Nothing more, nothing less. Maybe just a bit of a swerve and a curveball to try and get people away from thinking that maybe it is a very predictable chamber. I'm thinking it's CM Punk. I think Punk's going to win. It's going to be Punk against Cody Rhodes. As to what version of Cody we get from that one, whether it's a corporate or whether we get the Cody we all know, I think it's the Cody we all know. But yeah, Cody go up against CM Punk. He wins the chamber match. What about you, Nick? Do you think the same thing as me, or are you going differently?
Yeah, you hit again. I think it's obvious that we did a video on this one as well, because most of our thoughts, or maybe we're just on the same page here. Regardless, maybe everyone else kind of thinks the same way we are. I think Damian Priest winning. I think basically the only way that makes sense is if you're looking for the shock value. See 2025 Royal Rumble winner to compare. I think this would even be bigger than that. I think him winning here over the talent listed shown here would be truly shocking. um, the one thing I mentioned earlier about having changed my opinion on the guys involved here is Logan Paul and CM Punk. Maybe I'm reading too much into that, but in the previous video about talking about these guys, I mentioned Logan Paul makes an interesting feud with Cody simply because there are vast differences in how they got here. One worked his whole life to get here, and the other happened to end up here and plays the I don't really care card. But maybe I'm reading too much into it, but the Logan Paul CM Punk promo this Monday just has me feeling like he's not as invested. So I feel like based on that, he knows he's already not winning, and I think we both agreed that his chances of winning were pretty slim. But for some reason, he had this dark horse vibe to him for me, and because of how that went on Monday, again, maybe reading too much into it, but that's why we do these things. We love wrestling so much we want to overthink it. So with that, I don't think he's no longer. I think he's no longer an option for me personally. Seth and Drew, I think Seth has to deal with Roman. I think that's, you know, they made that happen for a reason, and so I think he's going to be busy with that, and so I think that for that reason we're not going to have Seth win. Similarly, I think Drew. I think you could put Drew up against half the roster at this point. He's been feuding with absolutely everyone, so I think they just have other plans for him. And then, as you mentioned, and your thought process, it boils down to Cena and Punk. And similarly to you, I think Cena, having not even earned his shot here, having just declared it, and then having not been here for the entire build, I think those are all reasons why Cena himself would not allow himself to win this based on that merit alone. And further, I don't, the John Cena obviously going up against Cody Rhodes, I don't think he's going to win a 17th title off of Cody Rhodes. It just seems backwards. It doesn't make sense for reasons such as John Cena not wanting to take the 17th off of someone who has as much momentum as Cody does. And I think him winning that 17th title, he wants to really build on that story, and he's got the better part of a year still to do it. So I just don't see that happening quite yet. I think his story, and I think we mentioned this in our last video too, Cena just makes a better story if he's still chasing something and not having been, handed something as he essentially was in this case. So that leaves CM Punk. It just CM Punk and Cody just makes most sense, I think, at this point, based on their their history with AEW and how they've come back to WWE. I think that makes a ton of sense. The only thing that has me scratching my head still is, I think, Paul Heyman owes him that favor. So what are we doing with that? Clearly that's still in the mindset. That's the only reason that has me thinking it still could be someone else. But it's interesting to say the least. But between Rollins, Roman, and Punk and that favor, I think there's a ton of potential things going on there. Um, so yeah, similar to the women's, I genuinely don't have a clue outside of the two that I know I'm confident aren't going to win. I think the other four you could all make a case for them as well. So, but with that, yeah, CM Punk is my final answer. Sunday will be a lot of fun going over who we think, or to see who actually did win and have our discussions on that. I think that'll probably be a lot longer video than this one, simply because we'll have the picture to Mania and the road to WrestleMania will be a little more clear. So with that, KP, any last thoughts on the Elimination Chamber? Or have you said everything you feel you need to say?
I mean, I don't really have an awful lot to offer, but what I will say is no matter what happens regarding all of these matches, we are now going into WrestleMania, after this. And ultimately, this is the last chance to really build like a big lot of hype before we really take that road down into Mania. So, yeah, a couple of good Elimination Chamber winners, and we can build up some more matches then. Because at the moment, WrestleMania to me has felt a little bit flat so far for obvious reasons that I've just spoken about my displeasure going into so far. But I'm looking for some positives. I'm looking for some big moments, and I think Elimination Chamber can provide a couple of those as we go into the showcase of the Immortals. So yeah, really looking forward to it. It can't be any worse than the Royal Rumble was. So I am excited. I want to see some big moments. And I want to see some crazy Elimination Chamber matches, which I'm absolutely sure both will be because they are both hella stacked.
Yeah, you make a good point. Don't have a ton confirmed for WrestleMania outside of the big title pictures yet. We certainly have ideas of where we think they're going, but once Elimination Chamber is all said and done, we got a month and a half left. That's not a ton of time, so it feels like a lot today, but it's come Saturday, we really don't have that much time. Granted, we will know a little more come Sunday, but we still have a lot of work to do for sure. But this is why we all love this. Love to be involved in wrestling. We're here for the ride, and I'm confident WWE will provide. So with that, this has been another episode of The Push. And we will see you all Sunday for a recap of Elimination Chamber and a SmackDown reactions video as well. Until next time, thank you. Bye bye.